Okay, ladies and gentlemen, whoever's listening to this, listen carefully. This is irrefutable evidence that a man who goes by the name of Rabbi Yehuda Ferris of Chabad of the East Bay, if you look at this document, and I'll read you from it, it'll prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that this individual, you can see the date of this is October 31st, 2022. I'd like to remind everyone that's listening that the eviction moratorium due to the COVID health emergency that killed 6 million people across the world wasn't lifted in Berkeley until September of 2023. And yet here in this filing in probate court, you see here it says attorney for trustee Rabbi Yehuda Ferris, right? It's filed in October 31st, 2022. Now, the eviction moratorium didn't lift in Berkeley until, as I said, September of 23. Whole families were decimated. You know how many people died in Berkeley from COVID? There were plenty, whole families. Okay? So, let me read the fine print here. Okay, I'm going to turn the page. This is the same document. You can see it. Okay, we're going to go to... What is this, by the way? This is a second amended petition trustee instructions from the court. So he's asking the judge what to do, right? But he didn't let the judge decide. So over here on page 4 of the same document, it says, brother of the late cancer patient remains on the property. Can you see that as I'm reading? It says on number 18, no, it says 17, he remains on the property after the settler, whose trust this is, and the trust gave the person who remains on the property part ownership of the property or a lien on the property with interest until paid in full till they get paid. Well, they didn't get paid. So 2.5 years after the man passed away, the Ferris didn't give him the money that the trust said to give him. Said give him money, him and his sisters, $90,000, and if they don't get it in 9 months, it becomes a lien on the property at 10% interest a year until paid in full. Well, 2.5 years later, he didn't pay him a dime, not 9 cents, let alone $90,000, the man or his 2 sisters. And it says here, yet he still goes to court 2.5 years later, and he says, well, he remains on the property. You should have said, well, did you give the man what you were supposed to give him? No. It says, after the man passed away, the COVID pandemic began. Okay, here's the key thing. Beginning in May of 2022, which is nearly more than a year, the COVID pandemic and eviction moratorium health emergency ordinance didn't lift in Berkeley till September of 2023. So it says here, beginning in May of 2022, Yehuda Ferris, who is a petitioner here, through his attorney, asked him to vacate the property, which would have been illegal because you couldn't leave your house until September of the next year. On May 25th, he was given until July 31st, 2022 to vacate, but nobody could vacate in the eviction moratorium. However, he refused. He refused to leave the property because he's obeying the shelter in place. He doesn't want to die like 6 million people died of COVID. And it says, then he goes on to say, well, petitioner Ferris is informed and believes and alleges that a mental health condition has contributed to his belief that he's the rightful owner. What's that got to do with not leaving the house in an eviction moratorium, whether he thinks he's the owner or not? It has nothing to do with it was illegal to vacate properties because thousands of people were dying, including in Berkeley. And then it says, intention to evict him, share the costs and attorney's fees. It is the intent of Yehuda Ferris, the petitioner, on the one hand, and the man's 2 non-Jewish daughters and mother, who never saw their father in 6 years of cancer. They admitted that in court, to share equally in attorney's fees associated with costs with evicting him from the property during the eviction moratorium. fees and costs related to the unlawful detainer action. It is the petitioner, that's Yehuda Ferris' position that the attorney's fees and costs of any action to evict would otherwise be borne by the trust estate should be charged solely against his share of the trust. But he didn't give him anything. He's supposed to give him and his two sisters $90,000 plus 10% interest a year. That's $30,000 each within 9 months. And if it's not within 9 months, it shall be a permanent lien on the property until paid in full. So here he is. He didn't do any of that, but he turns around and 2.5 years later, when the guy's hiding from COVID and following the orders of the state, federal, and local health authorities, now you want to throw him out because he's following the laws of the land. It is Ferris's position that it's unfair to other beneficiaries of the trust to bear any responsibility. Okay, and it says, we're informed he filed a lot of lawsuits of massive New Year's and various businesses, and he resorts to filing a lawsuit in a lot of time. He is facing challenges in life. A COVID pandemic, once in 100 years pandemic is personal challenges. There are laws, and those laws said you don't vacate wherever you live, no matter who or what or where you are, until further notice. And that order from the federal, state, and local government was not lifted in Berkeley until September of 2023. And in the county as well, but a few months earlier. And it says, Rabbi Ferris anticipates that he will not leave the property without resistance. Imprisonment may include a protracted defense of any attempt to evict him from the property. If he brings them legal challenges mentioned in the proceedings, the petitioner will necessarily incur costs and attorney's fees. Why are you trying to evict somebody in the middle of a COVID pandemic? And why aren't you just giving them the inheritance that they're due? Because he's greedy. His wife owns $10 million in real estate, $40 million inherited real estate. They live in a $6 million mansion, and you're trying to make this senior citizen who took care of his brother who was dying of cancer for 6 years to go live out in the street with nowhere to go, no money, no nothing. He took care of his brother 6 years, and COVID shut down the world. This is what you call a rabbi? This is what you call a Jew? No, he's born from Reformed parents. So is his wife. And these are not Jewish people. They don't act Jewish. By their deeds you shall know them. They don't donate a penny to Chabad house. They're a bunch of con artists, to say the least, to put it mildly.